All right, very good.
Good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome to our July 8th meeting, and it's our regular meeting of the Board of Elections. And we want to welcome Kadeen Ritter, although I guess she's still here informally, waiting, I think, for the finishing touches with the Secretary of State, if I got that right, Kadeen.
Thank you.
So, well, we do have the public here. Jed, did you have a comment?
Well, I'd just like to tell you how proud I am of the board for the spring election. I thought it went really, really well considering what we all were up against. I don't know what's going to come in the fall. We'll have to see, but I hope it's not a last minute fiasco like the one, but I think y'all done a wonderful job. You need to be commended.
Yeah.
Same thing for the girls in the office here. They've done a tremendous job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jen, if we have a election with polling places, do we have all the people we need for delivery again this year? Did we lose anyone, or?
I'm not aware of losing anyone, no. I did talk to Jeff, and Jeff said that if this virus is still going around, he might not be interested, but that's just Jeff.
Yeah. Well, he may change his mind,
Change.
and hopefully we see some downturn here.
Yeah.
So we need to be thinking of maybe an alternative.
To Jeff.
For Jeff.
I don't think so. He'll, the
You
last
think?
minute.
Okay. Because I know we're in the process now of trying to,
Get poll workers.
yes.
Is that going to be difficult for you?
Oh, I hope not, but yeah.
Well, you don't know, just like people said with Jeff, and of course, a lot of our poll workers are.
Oh, yeah,
Vulnerable.
vulnerable, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I stand corrected.
Yeah, so there's, actually I was gonna talk about this in my segment, but I can say to talk about it now. There's a survey that that the Secretary of State's office has produced that I'm gonna be sending out to all of our current poll workers. Once I get those back, we'll have a better idea. But I imagine, I know up until the day before March 17th election, they were calling and saying that they weren't interested in serving. So there's a big push from the Secretary of State's office to recruit as many as you can.
Now, if you can't get enough, are we prepared to go down to say 10 locations instead of 14?
Well, that's something I think the board has to discuss.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about alternatives.
We're going to talk about, we can talk about it, I guess, now, because I noticed that the Secretary of State in one of, I believe it was an advisory, or I think it was an advisory, indicated, I was reading it last night, that one of the things they want all of the boards to look at are schools. Specifically mentioning that this is the time to get in touch with them, suggest to them that we're going to be using them, that under Ohio law, they really have to let us use their facility, and that they should consider whether that should be a day off for students. Now, again, that wasn't directed so much at us as I suspect it's more directed toward the school authorities. And of course, we know, and Kadeen, you may or may not have heard, we had school officials in about a year and a half ago, invited the superintendents to ask them, could we use schools? Because one or two counties, we learned at one of our conferences, schools seemed welcoming. And our experience, Charlie and I, we sort of split the county in half. So Charlie and I had his neck of the woods, for lack of a better way of putting it. And essentially one day we showed up and they had closed the gate at Little Hocking Elementary, which meant voters were walking all the way around outside because they couldn't come through the school where they could park on the other side. And the parking lot closest to where they voted in the gym, the teachers pretty well filled that up. And so it was sort of that polite request, would you please find another location? Well, talking with them, none of them were warm to the idea. They seemed to think it was going to be very difficult to plan a school year, knowing that they had to give up a day in November that was fixed. And I didn't seem to me, I just thought like, they were asking us to look elsewhere. But I think, Jed, you're right. If we have trouble with poll workers, the schools are an answer because they're ADA compliant for the most part. We're not having to run around trying to locate a bigger building. And because, our big buildings, the junior fair, Belpre, I think we're pretty well, that church is packed in the sense of, I don't think we'd want to try adding one, two, or three
they're
more
full.
locations.
Yeah.
So again, I think we're gonna have to put our thinking caps on, and maybe we should do again an invite. I'll obviously listen to what the board thinks, but if you think it's reasonable, invite the school officials in August and say, especially if we know something about surveys, et cetera, here's our predicament.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the other thing we have to be prepared for is if there's some terrible turn of events with the virus, will there be a movement to say, legislation notwithstanding, we're going to do some kind of mail-in voting, or there'll be a change of the heart at the legislature, and now we have to be prepared to be a central count, a system where we're going to count 100% of them here, all of the primary.
I know I've sent out letters to all of the precincts or polling locations right now. I sent that out the 1st of July, letting them know that at this point in time, we are currently going on with the notion that we will have all in-person voting at each of the locations, asking them to keep that entire day clear. So no one else is in their facility, using their facility that day. I think it's a good idea to maybe ask the superintendents to come back in, maybe for our August meeting.
I'm going to make a motion that we have the director send a letter to all superintendents of the county to invite them to our August meeting.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Okay. Again, I think it's a good idea to at least hear from them and see what they have to say.
Well, at least we can say, hey, this Secretary of State and the governor are indicating that this is what they want us maybe consider doing.
Consider if we don't have poll workers, because that's the one thing we can do is with those numbers with a central location, we kind of shift our folks and get by. We'll have to do some, if we're doing that, and it could be just in the alternative that we want to plan out design, because we don't want to be handing off to our installers on Monday and design a voting location on the fly, so to speak.
We're still good with not having so many representatives in one polling place per precinct.
Or poll workers per precinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could still have 2 if we want.
Yeah, we can just have 2 if that's all we need.
Yeah, and that's the saving grace of,
Amen.
again,
That's true.
knocking back on those. All right,
The
so-
other thing about that too, Dennis, before you go on, I wanted to say is that we're looking at also, and I know that's going to be some trouble for some of our polling locations, is to have an entrance only and an exit only. I know in here, we're going to do that. We're going to have them come in for early voting through the regular door, but exit this door. That's one of the things that the health departments have recommended. We're also required from that directive from the Secretary of State to meet with the health coordinator. So I may invite her to our next meeting as well.
Wonderful,
Okay.
wonderful.
Her, is it a he or Roger Collins?
Ann Kuhn is the health director for Washington County, but there's also the Marietta City and Belpre City.
What's Roger Kaufman?
He's acting director. He is a director.
Because I wasn't sure which she was.
Okay, then Ann is with Belpre Marietta. They
Yes.
combined theirs, right?
Yes.
That the cities
Yes.
combined theirs, so I'm sorry, yes, you're right.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
well, no, that's all right.
So, okay, so, and by both of those people then,
I
okay.
would say yes.
Yeah, well, I think we want to make sure that we're keeping them in the loop and we get any advice that they can give us, et cetera. Which again, the other thing the Secretary of State mentioned is, and you probably already saw that you'll want to count how many folks you're gonna need. That
Yeah.
he's expecting and going, the whole purpose, there's gonna be a huge push, I think, from a lot of offices to vote early. And as much assistance to voters to do it, which means there'll be a lot more pressure on us at the central location. So again, if we're gonna do this kind of a traffic thing, we're gonna wanna make sure that we have enough folks to make it comfortable for people and,
We were talking about that some yesterday.
Yeah, we're probably gonna hire, 2 Bs and 2 Rs to help us.
Yeah.
Probably, depending, because the Secretary of State is sending out the application to all registered voters in Ohio, probably the week after Labor Day. So once those start coming in, that's when our phones are gonna start ringing and, I mean, we're already people requesting ballots. We haven't even defined the candidates for sure yet, at least on the top, they haven't been nominated yet, so,
But people are
obviously there's
very,
presumptive,
yeah,
but-
excited about it.
but yeah, people, I think they're hearing so much about it, they're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna see still, whether we have in-person voting or not, we're still gonna see a lot of people that do the absentee or the early voting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're going to also, we'll continue to maintain our system on the door, so it's virtually like a live vote here in that sense. So, because you're not trusting the mail to get it, you're gonna deliver it and pop it through the slot.
Well, what we were thinking is maybe hiring 2 of the delivery guys too, someone that can be kind of a usher in here.
Yeah.
Because to maintain the 6 feet apart, we're gonna lose one voting station. We can do it here with 5.
Right.
We can do 2 over here like we've had it, and we can do 2 up around that area and then 1 back here. We've had 6 in the past, but they were almost 3 feet apart, not
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
So we were thinking if we lose 1, we can still have the flow and then the exiting out of here and then trying to keep some type of 6 feet apart out in the, because there'll be lines.
Yeah.
We'll have lines. So,
Yeah, we thought we could mark, put tape down or some of our, not permanent spray paint, yeah, that's the temporary marking spray paint.
All right. Well, we'll get maybe back to that subject as we touch on a couple of other things. I think next minutes, and I believe we all should have the minutes. And I believe we got the minutes earlier.
I sent them out, yeah. I need to know, can I just send it to your regular email until you get your Secretary of State email? Okay, all right.
I didn't see anything, so I'm gonna make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
A second then.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor?
Aye.
Well, it passes. Our favorite subject, bills. Well, obviously, the big thing is knowing. And that's part of our e-poll book system, Kadeen, and we kind of split out our payments and so forth. They were pretty good working with us about, letting us get them and pay for them in segments, I guess, for lack of a
Yeah,
better
we
way
paid
to
part
put
of it
it.
last year and then the rest of it. this
Finish it
year.
up here, yeah. The confirmation letters and so forth. Would you mind, and again, I'm just reminding us, how many of these are we sending out?
Well, and it's in the correspondence too, there's the directive 2010
Okay.
General Voter Records Maintenance Program. So that's the NCOA. So each year they have us do those now, where the Secretary of State will get addresses that people have updated with the post office. And then they compare them with our records and they send us a list of who those, any of our registered voters that have moved.
So, because they're not matching with what we have.
Yeah, so the address is different than what we have on file.
And the NCOA stands for?
National Change of Address.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the state sends us a list of all those people, and then we send it to Triad, our voter registration vendor, and they put it into a format that we can work with better. And then we have to go through, all of us, and change those people's addresses. And then we have Triad, once that's done, they actually print those letters for us, the confirmation letters, and fold them, so they're like a tri-fold like this. And then we stuff them in envelopes, take them to Alaska, and they mail them out.
And they go to the voter.
Yeah, they go to the voter. And this time we had 1,458.
Do you have an envelope that they have to reply to you?
Yeah, we have to provide a postage paid envelope to the voter to send that confirmation notice back to us. And they're supposed to either confirm that the address we updated them to is correct, or to change it to a different address if that was not the correct one. And they can do that all on that form.
But unfortunately, we've had several already come back.
Well, we always have some, yeah, we always have some come back undeliverable.
Yeah.
They're sent forwardable mail to try to, get them to the people, but we always have some that come back. So people moved out of state or didn't update their address with the post office or bring it out or whatever, and they come back.
Now, I just thought of this, Mandy, with us getting those, we updated our system then as well with it, because I'm thinking with the Secretary of State sending out the applications.
Well, it would be changed with the state too.
So
whenever
they'll already have the.
Yeah, they'll already have
Okay.
Yeah, because anything we change here, we send nightly or daily, actually.
Okay, so they have it.
Yeah, there's a connection between us that sends them.
What do we do with the ones that we don't get delivered?
We're required just to keep them for a certain amount of time. We record in the system that they came back undeliverable and the date, and then we just have to keep them for the retention
And
time.
then if they show up,
Yeah, then they can still vote because they're not deleted yet. But if they've had undeliverable mail, they may have to vote a provisional ballot.
right,
Yeah,
is it one that we typically count in your experience?
yeah, typically we do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And do we check the B&B records to see if they're the same with them? Because obviously if
The
they,
state-
drivers, they would.
Yeah, the
Have
state
that
checks
updated.
that.
I was
The
gonna
state does?
say,
Yeah.
Okay,
that's their bailiwick, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Of course, that's only if they had changed their license in the last 5 years.
Well, if they get tags, maybe.
Yeah, well, the whole movement process is, again, we've always had some problem, only
Yeah, I mean, there's
because
always some. that-
some folks just give a PO box, and we end up with a street address,
Mhm.
and you have a couple of post offices that won't
No,
deliver
Right.
if it's not the post office box. And that still, I think, has been a problem now and again, once in a while.
Mhm.
But again, it sounds like we're on top of that, so we're in good shape. Everything else is pretty much, RBM Consulting was the only other one.
Yeah.
That's for past services.
Yeah, for services already rendered.
And all of that money, we had run out of, if you will, our training days or
Yeah,
whatever.
we had, I think
under
it
our
said on the
contract.
bill, 10 days, we're in the contract, so we were 4 over that, so.
So we had 14 days,
Yeah.
is what it amounted to. Okay.
And that was for 14.75 a day, I think it calculated out to,
Okay.
so.
And what did they do for us?
There are, RBM is the company that we have our voting machines through. And so they come in and they help us, with our tabulation and things like that. So to make sure that we're entering everything, like the election results, into our computer correctly.
And also, I think, would this have also included their making up of the ballot?
Yeah, it could have included
And training,
So-
he came to a couple trainings, that poll worker trainings that we
And
had.
they did testing with us, logic and accuracy testing, to make sure the machines were working properly.
Right. So would you, since obviously this is for past work done, do we have a sort of an estimate of what we'll probably see
How many
come?
more?
Well, he's gonna
Come
be
the
here,
fall.
because we're gonna make up the ballot
Yeah, so he's gonna be here 2 days for that. The
in
one
September.
Yeah, to do the ballot on September 2nd, our representative person from there. And then he's coming in September 14th to finalize it.
Right.
And then he'll be here election day. I don't think that I'm gonna use him for, training. I think I'm comfortable enough now to do the in-person training for poll workers.
So you're saying probably 4 days.
I'd say 3 or 4 days, maybe.
Yeah, we
Election
might have
day
them for the
is-
testing.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
him for the testing, I think.
So.
And we know, what unless we run into trouble. Of course, all those machines are still sealed.
Yeah.
Do we have to retest them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to test it with the new
Okay.
ballot.
With the new ballot?
Yeah.
Oh, with the
You
ballot.
have to make sure it reads
Yeah,
the
okay.
ballot.
So that took us 2 days, didn't it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
So it may be 5.
and we had some of the delivery, crew in here too,
Yeah.
helping with the testing too.
Right, I mean, that's been our history. to do
Yeah.
that. Okay.
We'll
so-
try to keep, but I don't think we'll need him for training at all.
So yeah, I think we could be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, are there any other questions about the bills? If not, I need a motion to pay.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? That passes. You already touched a little bit on correspondence. Andy, what else do we have going on?
The other is we just got the directive 2020-11, which is the CARES Act that was passed.
That's this one from the Secretary of State's office.
Yeah, Ohio was provided with, I think it says in there, like 12 million, so, and they're dividing out that money to each county based on the voter registration, how many voters you have registered.
Okay,
And there's an agreement we have to sign before we can get the money.
so this is money we have not seen.
Yeah, we haven't got it yet, but it looks like we're gonna get about 49,000.
Mm-hmm.
And is this money, as you read it quickly, what is your guys' take on what the restrictions will be?
Well, we have a lot of reporting from it.
Yeah,
I noticed that,
yeah.
We've got a lot of reporting on it.
but I mean, when it comes time to,
We could pretty much
Spend
use
it.
this on anything that, let me backtrack here a little bit. We still have that security grant. And they did extend an extension to us on the security grant. And if we didn't use the money by end of June, we were gonna have to send it back. Well, we decided there was still some things security-wise that we wanted to do, so we got an extension until the end of August. Part of that security money is we are going to increase the security cameras. We've gotten 2 quotes, and I've gotten 1 quote off the internet, which
For
the
like
Secretary of
50
State suggested, but I wouldn't. It's the lowest quote, but I don't know that we have to use the lowest quote.
usually have to use the lowest and best.
Well, this,
Lowest and best.
Yeah.
well,
And I
it's
think
not
as
the
long
best.
as-
Gives you a little.
yeah, it's not the
As
best.
long as we explain. Yeah.
There are 3 security companies in Southeast Ohio. Southeastern Ohio one is one. Aardvark is a new one here in Marietta. And then there was one we found outside of Caldwell.
Yeah, I forget the name of it.
But we haven't received his quote yet, and
He came in.
he came in and looked around, but we haven't received his quote yet. So I did get some from both, I think, ADT and Simply Safe.
Yes,
Those 2, we would have to self install.
our tech people would have to do it.
Well, or
us.
Sandy or I.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
I don't, because if something goes wrong with it, who do you go back to? At least with the other 2 companies, they can come in, they're local, so.
If there's a problem, it falls on their.
But there's
side of
about
the fence.
$1,000 difference between the 2 security companies locally that we got. So, that's something, we're still, like I said, waiting on that other quote. Once I get that other quote, I'll send it out to you guys, and then We may have to have a special
So
meeting to,
I was gonna ask, either a special or will our meeting in August give us enough time?
the money has to be encumbered, spent, and receipts provided
Right,
by the end of August.
so.
So we'll
maybe
probably have to have a special
It's
meeting.
either a special or again, if they can give you a date
Yeah,
as part of the agreement, that if we're gonna take them and we're gonna kind of presume that when we have our meeting, if you're giving us company A,
Yeah. then we
that
can-
arguably they could start the next day.
yeah. The other thing, I have bought the blinds, with, the security money, and, Emily's husband, I think, is gonna put those up for us, maybe Monday.
Oh,
So,
very good.
like the blinds, or the shutters that we have back there,
Yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna get those on all of the
because
systems.
we're trying to cover up windows,
Yeah.
because we've sort of got to thinking, and all the experts tell us, well, gee, you can see in, so
Yeah.
sort of encourages people to.
We did have a gentleman from Belpre who does the window tinting that allows it, if the glass breaks, it shatters kind of like automobile glass and not in pieces like a normal glass
Yeah,
would.
jagged.
Now, one of our security consultants said that may null and void any security system we have on the
Because
windows.
because what they were gonna put into was the glass break sensors.
Yeah.
So then it might make, like, the glass break sensor might not pick it up as well if it has that.
So I guess we're looking at,
He
do
said
we
it
want
might
to,
not, but-
are we more concerned about the glass shattering, coming in, or are we more concerned about security that will pick up anything that happens on that glass?
Yeah.
And then with the blinds,
And with the
we
blinds,
need
yeah.
the pins, but they haven't given us a quote back yet,
Yeah. So,
Okay.
for that.
but we're
Well-
looking at a camera, back in the cage, a camera outside of the, tabulating room. They want a camera inside the tabulating room. They want a camera that's pointing to the entrance door. And then we have our camera outside right now.
Already.
Yeah.
And
So
where do we store the images?
they're on a hard drive in the IT room.
Which is one place we're gonna get a camera,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is a little strange in that if you're witnessing Jed breaking in and he's in there, I would think he could haul away the equipment that was recording.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
saying.
Yeah.
depending on, if he had to get in there, he would have to come in that window because that's double locked every night.
Well, no, I get that.
So, yeah, I don't know.
But
I think it's,
I'm just chuckling. over
Yeah,
the
yeah.
notion that- Yeah, I get that we're doing it right,
the other cost that we talked about when Homeland Security, I understand, was here a couple of years ago or last year or
Yeah,
sometime.
last year.
The big abutments, so somebody doesn't come crashing in.
Bollards,
Yeah. So-
With us, because we're still, under review with the MOU with Jobs and Family Services and Director Fryman. So we didn't go to that extent.
well, we probably want to talk with them also about that, because it would have some impact on, and frankly, the other thing that suddenly occurred to me at least, might want to discuss with the fire department and the squad, just if there are any things we wouldn't think of that they'd go, you can't have it at this angle or whatnot, because it's difficult for us to get a whatever in that we wouldn't have thought of.
The other thing is, we needed our system monitored 24/7 and not just, we have to have somebody, if somebody does break in there, it goes to an entity, whether it goes back to a private company that then calls the
Police.
police and fire department, whatever. So that's, both systems of the quotes that we have received thus far have that in there. So,
Yeah,
And, panic buttons.
Yes,
For us,
panic
yes,
buttons.
For like at our desk.
That are silenced.
Right.
So if somebody would come in, we could push that.
Another question,
Mhm.
have we talked to the director about the air conditioning unit in that room yet?
well, since I got a digital thermometer, was one of the things the Secretary of State suggested to see how hot it gets in there. Now granted, we have not been in there as the four of us. The more people you have in there, the warmer it gets. It's staying about 75, 76 degrees in there. We've been told that's acceptable. Is it, Joseph?
Yeah, I mean, It's a bit warm because computers will be, 10, 15 above that, depending on their workload, but that should be
But,
fine, Angie.
Donnie with the IT department, county IT department is getting us, and it's, a room air conditioner too, but it's something, he could get it through his vendors much cheaper than us going like to Morrison's or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we are getting something that's, that will keep that room cooler. But I would tell you, since we installed the blinds, it's made a huge difference in there as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you're not good in that area.
Yeah, but when, that's our tabulating room, even in November, I'm sure it's gonna be pretty warm in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
But we'll have the air conditioner in there, because it does need to be a little cooler, but. So, but yeah, that's part of the, security grant that we can.
When we get done with what you're planning, knowing at least sort of what the numbers are, do we have money left over in that grant?
We will,
Yeah.
We
'cause
will-
had,
we still-
what,
we have 30 grand
yeah,
right
we had
now.
about 29,000.
yeah, 29,000, and the blinds were, I think, 300. The air conditioner, I think, was
I
what?
think I'm close to 7, maybe.
Yeah, maybe six, something like
Yeah.
that. And the
100.
quotes,
Yeah,
yes,
600.
and the quotes that we've received are between 4,000 and 3,000. So we're gonna have quite a bit. We'll still have probably 15 of it left over. If you think of anything else that we
Yeah,
can
so,
get in.
Well, again, I'm just thinking in part, should we get a hold of somebody about the bollards to begin with? Since that was a suggestion, and again, to the extent that we have someone who's really dissatisfied, or someone who's not, let's face it, we have folks who are challenged with
Mhm.
mental illness and so forth. And I'm just wondering if that could be a problem that we just we would have never thought it happened here.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, a car drove in and tried to ram the
or
door
somebody
or
hits the
whatnot.
gas instead of the brake.
Or we
That's
have
more likely than
occasionally a
anything.
citizen
I've seen-
who
I've
could
seen-
make a mistake.
Some of our elderly drivers
Yeah.
hit that.
So I'm just
Bang,
wondering
pretty
Yeah,
if
hit the curb.
about that. And then is there, I suppose, a scanner to register our early voting wouldn't come under security.
No, it will not. I've already asked Dennis.
We're trying to find cash.
Well, and that's,
A scanner that scans, when the envelopes come in,
The absentee ballot.
the absentee ballots, we had a scanner. Well, it went defunct, and then, of course, we changed systems, so the software is incompatible. So we were calling up, what was the price of that scanner?
65,000 for the scanner itself, 10,000 for yearly maintenance,
Yeah.
and then
You and I
1,500
are
for
thinking
install.
3,000 maybe for a whifty nifty, and they're going 65,000. So I'm looking for nickels and dimes that
Well,
we can find.
And we talked yesterday, this new grant, we could put that 45 grand towards that.
Yes, well, I've already been
Yeah.
cogitating.
So, which selfishly for us, that's a lot easier to do their reporting, because we have to do updates monthly on how we spend this money.
Yeah.
And if we only buy one item with it, I'm really good with that.
Well, again, my thought process on this is that it was a help in times past
Yeah.
when we've had these large early voting where we're having, I think our high was maybe 9 or close to 10,000 early votes. And so a lot of those were envelopes that needed to get into our system. And not that I'm against hiring people, but we sort of have limited physical space for people to be able to sit at a computer and enter. And we do know that there is a human error factor in how many we might miss in a given election, and we have to have that squared on election night.
Right.
So my thought process is that it's something hopefully that would take us into the future, and we'd be prepared for any eventuality as to what transpires in any given election with a scanner. And I'm wondering also that if we get this money, could we go to RBM and say, we want to negotiate the price?
But it's with Rundeck.
It's with Runback.
Well,
Yeah,
right,
which is
So,
the company.
But the first thing I have to find out before we discuss this much further, I've already sent a message to Triad to see if our EVIS system is compatible with this scanner.
Hmm.
And he said at this point, without knowing what their specs were, he really can't say. So I am going to contact the salesman. And now I know that she told me when I last spoke with her about 6 weeks ago, is that there were like 4 or 5 other states that said, yes, they wanted it, but she hadn't received a PO yet. So it's kind of first come, first
For
served
other counties?
from other states.
Oh, from other states.
From other
Okay, I
states.
thought it was other counties.
The only other county I know that uses this is Delaware, and they use the big one. This is called the Mini. So imagine the Mini 65 grand.
It sits on a tabletop.
Yeah,
And the big
Imagine
one
what the
is like
one- the bigger one is. so, but we think that maybe Delaware also uses Triad, so I'm gonna contact Delaware County and find out how that system is compatible with their computer system.
Yeah, well, if you could, that would be good, because I'm thinking we need to be doing that by August,
Okay, yep.
don't you think?
The grant agreement would require us to get 3 quotes from vendors.
Right,
But I don't think this, I have looked, I've done internet searches.
yeah,
I think this is one of its kind.
yeah, it's gonna be one of those things that, and occasionally we're also trapped with software.
Mhm.
And so it gives us, I hate to say it's an out, but in some respects, I'd love to get 3 quotes, except they tell you, oh, you can't use that because it doesn't have it's not compatible with the software.
Well, I would tell you, I know, and depending if we get this other quote, if we know we want to go with a different security system, I know that they're going to say, well, the board will have to document why they felt that was necessary, so.
Right, for the not.
To not go with the lowest bid,
Oh, sure.
so.
Well, again, I don't want to go with a bid where we're installing.
Yeah, I
Only
don't,
because it just complicates, if it doesn't work, oh, it was the installer's fault, it wasn't our equipment.
Mhm.
And you get into the brouhaha, and with security equipment, you want it working.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't want to be arguing over who has to fix it, or
Mhm.
who's replacing it, or what it's gonna cost. I mean, I'm certain the county wants us to have a fixed cost that,
Yeah.
you know.
So if it turns out we
Yeah.
can't, for whatever reason, whether it's not compatible with our system, are there any other large ticket items that you, as the board, feel we may need that we can use it? I mean, it's pretty open as far as, what we can,
I mean,
we can use it to buy additional ballots. We do have the 2 printers now. We're not ready to print all the ballots on those 2
Well,
printers.
no, we couldn't.
We're gonna have to order some ballots.
You can use it for personal or PPE.
They've updated.
supplies,
Well,
Staffing.
we could use some of it if we're going that direction, because I know we're getting close to that time. Help me out here. Is August the typical time or is it this month that we tell you how many?
We'll probably
Ballots.
finalize for the ballots next month.
Okay,
But I did give you a preliminary
I
Yeah,
thought I saw
thing, that-
bounce it in there, yeah.
because it does specify in this directive where it talks about how many we need to order.
Yeah, you had to order.
Oh, and God bless Jim Huggins, because he loved this part, so we always left it. So none of us have a lot of experience.
So maybe we can consult, can we hire him as an outside consultant
Oh,
on this?
God bless him, he would work these things over, he loved that.
Yeah.
That was really his thing. But I think for my 2 cents worth, I'm just gonna put out there, I think we wanna have more ballots than less ballots.
That's what I
Because I'm wondering if, despite the fact we have all those touch screens, if we aren't gonna wanna encourage people so we don't have lines. If you want a paper ballot, we can give it to you, you can fill it out, and our scanner will happily scan it just as well as it will scan the smaller ballots our machines are producing. Just so we don't have lines. Again, part of the, 6 feet, et cetera, can look a little daunting when the lines are getting big, not because they're really enormous, but because there's 6 feet
Right,
between
you're
them.
fine.
And so I think folks may be willing to move along a little bit. We've always had a group that would probably prefer a paper ballot, sit down and fill in the ovals.
Our concern is where we got them, we get them from RBM or Roomba?
Yeah, RBM.
RBM.
the
They
election
staple those ballots together and they are a pain. I mean, we've ruined some ballots. We've had to spoil some ballots or soil them because
Have you had a
the staff-
discussion with them about that?
Yeah, I had before, and they didn't seem like their company they used, before we always got glue.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
easier, so you can just pull it off.
So they didn't, I guess, they don't really use the glue, so we might want to go with a different.
So we may,
Yeah.
you think Barrett Brothers
Barrett
was
Brothers
bought
used
out too.
before.
I don't know if you all knew that. Barrett Brothers does a lot of our envelopes. They're from the Dayton area, but they got bought out and they said they're still keeping the contracts for boards of elections, so.
I think it's called Graphic Village now, or
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, so we might go with them and see what they do, but I'm not interested in spending any money on any of them that are stapled. Because you
Hold on.
soil more ballots than you do
Yeah,
sending
because
them
you
out.
can't really get the stub off.
You
because
can't
it's
get the stub
stapled
off.
in the stub.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing that to me has always been important, again, is speed.
Mhm.
Because when you're having folks in line, the quicker you can move them off that to a place where they can vote,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
the happier they are.
Yeah.
And the safer everybody's gonna be if there's a concern about distance and crowds and whatnot. That's my 2 cents worth.
Well, and it sounded like that there were some boards that, maybe in some of the cities, that at their precincts, they actually had a printer there and they could print off the ballots at the precincts.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's not something we could consider, but I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think we at least have some ideas. You obviously have ideas. So in August, if we could be prepared, and again, it's an important thing, and hopefully by then Kadeen is a voting member
Yeah.
and so forth, so we can have all 4 of us weigh in on it as far as, getting that accomplished and still give you folks enough time
Yeah, that's still time.
to get organized. And, because I'm just thinking we have to sort of plan more for the worst, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, I'd rather have too many, but.
Now, we can also, if you read this, we can also use this money for staffing too. So we can take the money to hire, the 4 people for in here and
Right.
the delivery workers, although that's never been too much of a challenge for us.
Right.
So,
Okay.
And then it looks like, we could even use it for, we talked about another high-speed scanner. And you could use it for that, which would take, up basically all the money. But if we wanted to do that,
You're talking about a ballot counter.
yeah.
Our high-speed scanner, to me, was a little disappointing in the way it ran. And remember, we were counting out, we spent a lot of time counting 20 ballots to see that we scanned 20.
Right. Well, that's just kind of
a
a,
scanner we're looking
But
at.
I'm just saying, the typical scanner, high speed, is you put a lump of them in the tray and
And
take a
it
lump
goes.
out. When you get to the end, put another lump in and away you go.
right.
So I was a little frustrated with what I didn't think was that high speed of
Mhm.
scanning. If you recall, when we ended up doing our other thing, you were high speeding it, but the rest of us came in and used, the turtle
Yeah,
and got done fairly rapidly because the turtle just kept taking them as soon as you stuck one in and
Yeah.
it was ready. So just an observation that, I
well,
think
we'll find out more and then in
we need
August
to
we'll come back
Figure out
with,
what we can do
yeah,
about
what we
high-speed
decide.
scanners.
Yeah.
as to whether we can flatten those things better.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping to have them opened, the envelopes opened ahead of time so that the
Yeah.
ballots will fly.
Well, again, that may be where that other scanner would come in, because everything quickly goes through and you're ready to open and you're flattening them, so they're ready to go. So, don't know what else to tell you. Did we get through all our correspondence? Oh, no, public record.
Yeah, I just to let you know, we have those public records requests. The second one, the FOIA, that was just their abbreviation, but, it's basically kind of similar. They wanted to know about absentee ballots that didn't get counted, why they were rejected, or, so that's basically what it was about.
Okay.
And we sent both of those to Allison as well.
Yeah.
The request,
Mhm.
so we
Yeah,
haven't
so she can
responded?
But if we send them to her to start with, just so she can see.
So she looks at them and
And
then
then
she
tells
sends
us
it
if
back to us.
there's, gives us advice on it.
All right, so how close have we responded to both, or are we in the process?
Yeah, in
The
the
second
process.
one, yeah, I'm gonna be doing today, so.
Okay, okay.
The Covington one, we did,
Yeah.
correct?
That was the first one
That was how
we
I-
saw,
Yeah, yeah.
It was a much larger,
and they were asking for things, Kadeen, that we didn't have as record. We'd have to make a record to send to them, and of course, we're not required to make a record, only send records that we already have in the ordinary course of business.
But this other one, you thought you could get reports from our.
So that's
Yeah, the
why
other
we
one was
had
much easier.
Allison, we always let her check, or Nicole, I guess, in the past.
Yeah,
has done
Nicole's
that as
helped
well
us.
for us. So we're good there. All right, business memorandum, have we had any conversation are they waiting on us?
I thought you were going to talk with Allison.
Well, I
And I
did,
know-
but she had to get back to me, and
Oh,
and
okay.
that
We'll get
hasn't
back with
happened.
her.
Because I want, I think this at least needs to move ahead enough, because there are issues about, we're sticking up cameras, we're doing this,
And
we're,
we've already talked to
Yeah, I did
Director
call him
Freeman about that, and
about
he's
that.
fine with all of that. He said he had no problem with that. Like you said, the things for out
The
front, that's
balls
something that's
might
more
be
physical,
something, yeah.
here at their place, so we would need to talk to them. But yeah, I'll follow up with Allison to find out. Nicole also weighed in on that as well, so I'll follow up with them.
have we heard anything about their construction plans, as how that relates to, what we're doing,
I haven't
come
heard
election
any.
time?
No, not at all. I have not. You mean, are you talking Jobs and Family Services?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were gonna do the construction. Yeah, back in the
Remember we
back,
were planning on
across
doing
from our-
construction and
Yeah.
bars and doors and closing up entrances?
Oh.
Yeah. Is that- the other storage area back here next to ours.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was wanting to close up that door where we have that gate to over there.
so that's gonna be closed
And become up
completely.
offices.
Well, that's better then we don't really need to have necessarily a camera in there possibly, because that was one of the reasons they thought we needed a camera.
Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and I think.
Well, I'm not
Okay.
opposed to the camera. I'm just trying to figure out construction wise, if they were gonna have vehicles here, are we gonna be
Yeah,
tripping
because
over
early
one
voting
another?
starts,
Or
It
if
starts
you
October
knew they
6th.
weren't gonna
October
start
6th, yeah.
until 21, is there any reason worthwhile for us to discuss if he knew, based on his planning, is there available space for us for the early voting, that he'd be willing to just sort of give it to us for that time period, say that conference room
I
or
would think
the
of that same
hallway?
thing.
well, we thought about that. The thing is, we have to have a staff member or somebody over there, so.
Well, we're gonna need one in here.
Yeah, I know. So, well, we were doing it in here more or less for traffic purposes.
Right.
But over there, we definitely have to have somebody.
Well, I think,
Because we-
I
it's
think
not
that
like
would be
they
a
can just-
better location if we can do it.
Now, can we- is
One
there-
door and-
Is there an in and out over there?
Yes.
Yeah,
There's one way in and then one way out?
uh-huh.
Okay.
There's a side door, although I don't know if that side door
And you know what-
is ADA compliant. The door that goes to the side over there.
It's all over the
The one that
sidewalk.
goes out, I
Yeah,
thought it had a push bar.
I think it does, but I don't know if the sidewalks.
This
wide
is not.
enough.
Well,
This
but the sidewalk, you'd probably make a left-hand turn, wouldn't you, and just come down to the end? And you'd either step off or you'd have the handicap, ramp up, the drop.
Well, that's the same door we have here.
Yeah, I mean, that
No,
door,
no.
that door's okay, it's
The
the
other
one
one.
on the
Oh,
other side.
okay.
It's on
Yeah,
the
it's the one on
backside.
the-
But I mean, all I'm saying
It's
is.
like that one, I think, the one on the other
Yeah.
side.
I wouldn't think it'd be any different than this one. I mean, they wouldn't have changed the door just over there.
No, I mean, the doors, but the sidewalk's not as wide. It's like this wide.
What's it gotta be, 36 inches?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing, but then is there a possibility, if we were able to use both, that we would limit this then to ADA, at
Mm,
least leaving a
absentee.
spot or two so that folks could wheelchair in and out
Do you
from
think
here?
people would mind walking over there once they check in here and then walk over there to vote?
Well, see, I'm wondering if we'd walk them this way.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, I mean, do you think they'd mind the extra?
I don't know. I mean, again, if you think, well, we move people a fair distance at the junior fair building, I mean, it's not like they get a ballot and walk a couple of feet.
Well,
Back-
what we
back
could do
to
is
the
possibly
church.
keep ADA and anybody
Yeah, I
that
mean,
wants
we'd
to
have
vote
to go ahead and do that
provisionally,
here.
or anybody that wants to paper ballot in here and have only electronic voting over there.
Yeah, I'm just
We'll have to
asking
contact
you to
Mike.
think about it,
Mhm.
but at the same
Yeah,
time,
that's
we would
something to
have
think
to
about.
talk with them. Because I'm just, like I said, just at this point, we can think outside our box, so to speak, because we're not sure. I'm just, again, wondering if that wouldn't be a possibility, that's all.
Okay.
And that would allow people to move and, in a,
Yeah, we could get more people.
we would
Yeah,
get
you
more
could-
people, we
more
get
people
them
through.
in and out. And again, it
Yeah,
might.
because we could almost set up 10,
Yeah, I mean, we
Voting
could put
booths.
several in
Booths
there.
Yes,
over there.
well, that's what I'm thinking, that,
Yeah, and still
that's
be
what we do.
maintained.
Well,
Social
no, that
distancing.
wouldn't be double locked though. And it's
Well-
not under our lock. We don't
No,
have a key for it.
so we'd have to discuss that,
Yeah.
about how we might do that. And again, the issue would be, can we leave, how hard is it to pull the media out?
Well, it doesn't well, the machine that's actually, we'd have to have the scanner over there that scans the ballot once they voted it.
Right, so that's the only thing we need is
Right,
is to
that's
pull
easy to
the,
pull
is to
out.
either roll the scanner
We probably
into a
want to roll
double
it.
lock,
Yeah, we probably want to roll it back because it would have the
Roll it back
ballots
every
in it.
night.
rather than take
Or we'd have
it,
to
pull
take
it
the
because
ballots
it has
and
the
the media
ballots
out every
inside.
night.
So, I'm thinking, that to me, we could roll it easy enough.
And they roll easy enough.
Right. And then we'd just be back putting it in, and the rest of the machines are nothing more than a ballot marker.
Yeah,
Right. they don't
And so
record any votes.
you can't start it up. And you need the scanner if somebody were to sit there and try to print 500 ballots.
Mhm.
They have no scanner to send them to.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's not like that kind of a ballot we're gonna take in a window.
Yeah,
No, not in an, yeah.
So,
we know.
so we would know immediately if
Yeah.
someone were trying to, and again, it won't store them, so it's not like they can't be hidden in the machine.
Right.
And again, they'll need those codes in order to get
To get
started.
in.
Well, we'll
And
contact
could
them.
we, and the other thing is, could we consider is there the possibility of a temporary camera? Or one that's mobile?
know.
Again, just something to talk to IT about and say, well, we'll put a camera in there only when people aren't voting. I don't think we want a camera in a facility while folks are voting.
Yeah, it's just for
Yeah.
our
That
crowd.
sends a
Yeah.
very bad message,
Yeah.
that
Well,
we're
we don't
looking
wanna,
over their
yeah, see
shoulder.
anybody's votes.
Right, right.
We can't do
Oddly
that.
enough, Kadeen, that actually was occurring at the courthouse.
When we
In the
voted
sense
out in
of,
the hallway.
when we were over, outside where the little cafe is on the bottom floor, the sheriff had cameras that went to the doors. Well, we were voting right under them.
Mhm.
No one ever noticed it. We just stumbled on it, looking up, going, is that a camera? So I went back and Steve Summers, who was the deputy, I said, Steve, can you show me where you're pointed? And I said, could you point straight down? He goes, well, yeah, but what would we do that? We'd be looking at, I'm going, no, you could be looking at somebody voting. Oh. I said, so we're gonna have to have somebody look every day just to make sure you're still looking at the doors, so we could tell a voter.
Yeah.
You know, oh no, that's for your security. The sheriff is watching to make sure we're not having armed people, you know, invading us, that sort of thing. But we decided that was another moving factor. One of the things
Right.
the county commissioners took into account was that we couldn't very well tell the sheriff he couldn't have security on the courthouse. But at the same time, we, you know, voters could have gotten nervous that, you know, the sheriff was taking a peek
That
at how they
somebody
were
was,
voting.
yeah, watching.
Yeah,
Mm.
all right, shut up. We're good on the NCOA process numbers.
Yeah, so
Delivery truck rental,
yeah, do we want to use for that United Rental again? I did check with them, it's the same price.
oh, I think we like them.
And I think
Sure
everybody.
do, yeah.
Yeah.
Kadeen, we've used them because, well, as a lawyer, you'll appreciate this. Allison, God bless her, she can find more things we can't do or stuff under bills. And one of the things these contracts all have are save harmless clauses. And we're forbidden to save harmless anybody because of how we budget.
Okay.
And so forth. And so when we went to like Penske or a U-Haul or something, they'd have a save harmless clause, but we couldn't do it. So our way around it was to talk some
Yeah,
staff
somebody
person's
into,
relative into renting it, and they signed the save harmless. Then we rented from them with no save harmless. And then we found out about United Rental, and they would work with us. So we've used them, and we use box trucks because of the need. We actually looked at getting our own trailers and decided the box truck was still a much better way to go at this point.
yeah.
So I think it's a good company, and it seems to me we ended up, we used them, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
We've used them.
Yeah.
for our sort of aborted,
Yes, exactly.
you know, we got everything ready to go and then didn't go.
Well, and they're trucks that we don't require a CDL holder
Yeah.
to operate,
Maybe a lift
so.
gate on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lift gate.
So there's
Whoever
everything
drives
good.
the
Color
load.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're perfect. Yeah, they are.
So I think we're good. So you can go ahead and get that organized.
Wait, do you?
Oh, we need a
You go to the
motion.
process to,
We'll need a
you need a
motion.
motion for that?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and contact United Rental for the trucks for the November election.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, and they said I can, I told him I'd let him know later today if we decided to go ahead and use them, and they'll go ahead and reserve them now.
Well, that's what, I think we need to have.
And you're still gonna be delivering Monday?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that if we did suddenly go to schools, that Monday could still be a deliverable time? Just
Any day.
fewer spaces. I meant for their purposes.
For their
that
purposes.
We wouldn't be handicapping you if we changed somewhat of our system.
No.
Okay.
Do you deliver later, could you deliver later in the day if it's schools, so that it doesn't
At
disturb the
specific
Monday
schools.
school day?
What are we talking about? Using only schools for voting?
Yeah, let's say we don't.
If we had to go to that.
They would have to probably be a late afternoon. They wouldn't want to just dismiss school,
Well, no, the issue might be whether we could,
start in the afternoon, evening, as long as they
yeah,
have
or
access to
could
the
we
school.
do,
I mean, sometimes they let out at
or
like
could we
2:30.
talk to them about also or a drop off? What I mean is that you could drop off, equipment, you know, say at 1 o'clock, if it were an area that they weren't gonna otherwise be using. I mean, again, I just don't know.
Yeah, we might have to even ask the school.
But I think you're right,
Something
that
to-
after school would certainly make them feel that we're not messing with 2 days.
2 days, yeah.
And then the only fly, not necessarily a fly in the ointment, but then we might have to do a pickup,
Same way.
same way, on Wednesday later in the day.
Yeah, I wouldn't see a problem with that, no.
And usually we get the trucks for a whole week.
I was gonna
So that should
say,
give us
so,
time on the
our,
trucks.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
not
they give us a week
hamstrung
on
with the
them.
trucks as far as that goes. So, but that's a good thing, that's a good thought, we ought to keep
All the
that.
schools is a great idea.
You know, if we get close to that point, we may have to go out and look at the schools and see where.
Oh, I
may
think
have
we
some-
would, because I'd want to talk
Yeah.
with the schools as well about, here's how many, here's how many pieces of this, that, and the other thing. So we'd have to, I guess we'll have to take a look, because am I correct that toward Athens, is there a voting location? Do we have any voting locations that school in Athens?
In the location, what now?
That like that our
School.
students go
And
to,
our students go to an Athens school.
Unless there would be post-secondary, but I don't think so.
I mean, unless, yeah. it's-
Anybody up toward Noble County?
Yeah, they're on the county line, they
Some
can
of
go
some of the
to,
Aurelius people go to the Caldwell
Yeah.
Executive Schools.
Okay.
And some of them
so
go
for
to
them, they would
private
have-
schools too.
They're gonna have to come, we'd have to pick the school they're going to.
That'd be lower state.
Well,
No, they can
No.
know, because the
I
polls
mean, they
are
don't
open until
vote,
7:30,
they don't
so
go
they
to Noble
can,
County to vote, they would just.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying if we're only using Fort Fry and Frontier,
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to drive to.
one or the
Fry
other.
Probably.
Well, they drive
Be
the,
quicker.
Yeah, I knew you were planning to get around to a
I was
move.
gonna say, people had a problem going from Lowell to Beverly, we're gonna ask people from Warren to come to Beverly. Ooh, I understand it, but,
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, but if that's where you're taking your child,
yeah,
I'm just gonna say there could be a small pocket of people who will typically take their child to a school that's outside of
yeah,
what we're doing, and we'll have to assign them then a school,
Right.
which is all I'm
yeah,
pointing out. So it was just, again, the thought process, because at some point, if we're doing that, we're gonna have to have a map out. Because I think Charlie's absolutely right. I think as a board, we should go visit those places in concert with principals, et cetera, about here's our thought process, tell us why that's bad.
Do we know of any, I mean, I know Governor DeWine came out with his recommendations for the schools last week, but do we know of any schools in our county that already know their schedule?
yes, Frontier.
I was gonna say they
Frontier is
all,
going 24, they're,
They moved theirs to 27th, I think.
I can't remember when it was, but.
Yeah.
Supposedly they make their calendar year in this, like 2 or 3.
they do,
years
they
in
work with their
advance.
union
Yeah.
and that's why their calendars are pretty well set.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if we know, and of course, the whole dynamics can change if we have a huge surge again. I mean, if they're closed, there's no problem. I wouldn't think.
Well, if they do what the, what is it, Secretary of Education have said,
Mhm.
they want schools open.
Yeah,
So
they're
if they
hearing that on
do,
the federal level, they're
on
hearing,
the federal level, they
Yeah.
want the schools open.
yeah. So,
Why would they want that? What's that do for them?
well, they
don't
think it's
they're
harming
getting
the
an
children
education.
more.
They don't think
not
they was
being
getting an
in school.
education because it was closed.
I know like Columbus City schools, their elementary's going 2 or 3 days a week, but all of their high schools in the Columbus Public School System are virtual. So I don't know I had not heard whether or not any schools in our area had decided something like that.
I don't think they've decided yet. They're
Yeah.
still waiting on the governor.
Well, he came out with recommendations,
Well, again, I think
I
there's,
wouldn't want to be a superintendent right
we
now.
have to sort of be as flexible,
Yeah,
because we need to plan for each eventuality. So again, I think key to get those folks in so they can give us their best, and we can tell them potentially the scrunch that we're under. If we're not, then maybe we're gonna go with our, 13 locations.
And they work good.
And they work,
Yes,
uh,
they work very good.
but
My
I'm
concern
just
is
saying
call-off.
is we gotta have enough.
Yeah, that one's mine.
It's not open right
because
now.
you
I
can't
mean,
go
it's
in,
small.
you can't go in and out 2 different doors
No,
at
you
Paw
can't.
Paw.
No.
But are there other places that are like that too? Nazarene, they can go in one door and out the
Well,
other.
frankly, probably, the Belpre Church of Christ is the one
That's the
door
one that would
there.
be the,
It's a large door,
yes,
but
it's only one door.
Yeah.
one door.
Could you, is it a large door enough that you could put
I know.
a
It's a
panel?
double door. It's a double door.
So we could put a panel or something?
Perhaps, but again, Pinehurst, Charlie, Pinehurst,
It's still a double door,
it's a
but
double door, but again, it's a
One way.
one-way, in and out. I'm just trying to go down
Yeah.
the voting location.
Yeah, and I think the library.
well,
would do that
the one out, Barlow is the same.
Porterfield, Porterfield, they could take them out that side
Side
door,
door.
Yeah.
so they were okay.
How about Lighthouse?
That's
But
what I-
Lighthouse, I think, is a double door.
Yeah, it's double door.
It's a double door.
Yeah, it's a
double
There is a hallway that goes to a second door. You remember what,
Oh, it to the right?
if you went to the right, there was a hallway going down to offices, and I thought there was a door just
To the
further
outside.
down there a bit.
Mhm. And I know Beverly, there's two, but one is up the ramp, which is the side that they wanted us to use, the entrance, and the other two are going down steps, and they did not want us to use
Right.
steps.
Which, I mean, we couldn't for ADA.
Yeah, which we couldn't for ADA
Right.
anyways. And Watertown Fire Department only has one entrance and an out, I believe.
So most of
I'm
ours seem to be that.
suggesting that we'll be a little cramped in that regard.
Yeah,
But I guess, again, we're gonna plan for that, but we also need to be thinking about larger places, schools, et cetera.
well, and in those smaller places, I can work with the location manager and just make sure that only one in at a time and only one out at a time, so that
The
way.
fairgrounds is gonna be a,
Yeah, the big
I thought there was another.
The fairgrounds does have
Yeah.
double doors on
There,
that
down at
end,
the end.
Yeah,
Well,
it just
actually,
goes to
you could
grass
walk.
though, I think.
but it's a long walk.
And I don't think it goes to a sidewalk. I think it just.
it just goes over, yeah, to the bathrooms, there's a door on that side.
There's one there.
Is that still
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
the parking lot and then they can walk around?
Yeah.
To do that, yes, that could be done.
Okay.
All right, so maybe all right.
I don't think there's a gate or anything,
No.
fence
Yeah.
Hurry up and get it back.
at the fairgrounds. If you go out through like where the kitchen is.
Oh, the
you got home, yeah, to
bathrooms.
where the bathrooms,
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's either, yeah.
And then along those lines, we sent the postcard out when we thought we were voting at the junior fair or the senior fair office. We don't have to send postcards out to tell them they're back at the fairgrounds at the junior fair building. do
They
we?
said temporary.
It said temporary on them, so I don't, do you guys feel that? I mean, at this point, we don't, for one of the schools, everybody's getting a new postcard.
Yeah, we never got a chance to see how that worked.
No, we didn't. We didn't find out until 11:30 that night, did
I'm
we?
just
Jeff?
really glad we didn't have to use that facility.
I am too. I am too.
I thought that was gonna be really a problem. So it worked out good in the last back there.
Yeah.
And we did change it back in our system, so any of these NCOAs that went out to people
Tell them.
and any new voter registrations, say it's the junior fair building.
They don't have the farmer's market in there anymore either, do
I don't know if they officially moved yet.
Well, they went to
were
council
gonna be
last
moving.
Week, didn't they?
Last Saturday, there were still.
Still there.
Oh, were they?
they? They
Okay.
secured the second street, they're gonna block it off.
Did they go ahead and get in?
I knew they went to council with it, so,
We're hoping that they move over to the west side, so,
okay.
West side,
yeah.
For the
We got-
farmer's
we got-
market?
Yeah.
Where,
We
are the
got-
boys and
there's
girls?
Plenty of space over there for them. Behind the railroad cars, there's a big wide open space. There.
Oh, this is for outdoors,
Where the
when they're
busy
outdoors.
bees at, yeah.
where's that at?
Where the busy bee behind, like,
Behind
right
the
there.
busy bee.
There's good parking.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
the
there's
thing,
plenty
there
of
is
parking. Yeah, a lot of parking.
All right, moving on, the ballot order, again, you gave us this.
Yeah, just kind of the numbers.
little
so you
graph.
know it. I didn't get in the number of registered
It
voters.
looked to me like, I just quickly looked at the back end, the November 2016 and November 2008, both, well, I guess even 12, were fairly consistent at 72, let's say to 74, 75% turnout. And with that, In 2008, of the 30,000 that show 21, I'm just using those, 21,000 were on that day.
Election day.
And,
That was kind of the trend, but it didn't get in some of the other numbers there, but
right,
that's kind of how it seems to go.
okay. So the one thing I don't think we knew, at least from this, how many were, when it says the absentees.
Yeah, we didn't get that
That's
for
a
12 and
combined
16.
in-person, but that's in-person plus by
Plus
mail.
mail, yeah.
Do we ever
Which we
separate
can
that
divide
out?
out if you want.
You can separate that
Yeah.
out?
But again, in both instances, we print those 9,000 ballots.
For,
Yes.
yeah, for the people that, well, yeah, in the past, we would have printed all of them first. Now some of them will be voted on the touch
To be-
screen, which will print out from
right.
there, but.
Right. But I'm just saying, of the ballots that we're gonna order, we're sort of ordering from the 22,000
Right.
batch numbers,
Mhm.
as far as allocating, how many hither and yon. And we need to do that come next
Right, for the next. meeting, yeah.
August.
Because we'll be, starting the ballot, we said before September 2nd is when we'll get it laid out. And then so for the September meeting, you guys can approve it, and then we'll finalize it with them on September 14th. So then we'll order them right after that. But this way we'll already know from the August meeting how many we want to order.
Based on what we know right now, are we going to have a two-sided ballot or a one-sided?
I would say a 2.
And do
Yeah,
we know
because right
what the
now we
length
only-
will be?
The what?
It'll be the same length as
The length, yeah.
usual.
What is that, 14?
Yeah, it's 14 for the ballot itself, and then you have a 3-inch
3-inch
stub, so it makes it
stub,
17
17.
overall.
Because at this point, and we've not received anything officially, but the only school levy we are hearing is the Marion City School.
Yeah. And then I think the county home, they're gonna turn in for the county home
Yeah.
levy and the senior citizens.
Are there any state issues?
No,
Not at
we
this
haven't
point.
heard of any. And normally we would have got petitions by now.
Yeah, because the secretaries, they voted on the electronic signatures for the one that got thrown out. So I don't think they'll have
Yeah,
any state
I don't think-
issues.
All right, so we're gonna, okay. So again, not everyone will have that on their ballot.
Right.
It'll just depend on what
Like for Marietta
location.
City Schools, I think they have 22 precincts in there.
Right, in their
Yeah.
bailiwick.
Mhm.
But the county home and the
That would be
senior
countywide.
levy, is senior levy Washington County?
Yeah, both of those are countywide.
All right, so we're gonna, all right.
And
So
then
it looks
the
like
two
it'll be
split
at
house,
least a
Ohio House
two-sided
districts.
ballot.
So
Okay.
I'd say it'd be 2
I'd
sides.
say it'll be two.
We may have 1 or 2 that's not, but I think generally they will be.
It's just gonna be one ballot front and back.
Yeah, just one front and back.
And I had gotten a question from somebody, is there gonna be room for write-in?
Only if somebody has.
If we know there's a
turned in as
candidacy
certified,
for
right.
that.
Right, only if somebody has turned in,
When is our,
which is, I think maybe around the 26th, August
Yeah.
26th.
I was gonna say, I know it was
24th
August.
is the deadline,
All right.
yeah,
For writings,
right.
So
But
we
we only
won't
put that
know
line.
when we at least pick ballot numbers. But I don't think that's gonna,
But that
Change.
shouldn't make us a 2-page
I don't think,
ballot
and
or
it's not
anything
gonna
like
make us
that.
a hot, I don't think it'll be any.
So they
more
don't
of a
automatically
hot
put the
button.
write-in at
We
the
only
bottom
put it
of
on-
each
No,
race?
you only put that on there if somebody
If
turns
there's
in.
an actual
Somebody-
candidate,
Okay,
yeah.
If somebody files to be a write-in. Because you have to turn in a form to say you're intend to be a write-in candidate before you can, votes can be counted for you.
and if you choose to be a write-in, if there is a write-in candidacy, anybody that wants to vote for that person and write them in, they have to do only a paper ballot? There's no way of doing that
No,
on
they
a,
can do it on the touchscreen.
oh, they can?
Mhm.
Okay.
It comes up with a little keyboard on the screen. that you
Oh, it
type
does,
in.
okay, 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 good.
easier to read.
Yeah, because we're not reading somebody's
Yes.
handwriting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
And, all right, so I think we're in good shape with that. Again, the machine allocation, I guess I would just say, right now, we'd have no reason to say we thought we needed to change
Yeah, I
the
mean, I think
number of
we'd do the
machines.
same.
We'd go with the same. And probably we do the same if the difference will be when we start bundling people up. If we went to
Right,
schools,
if we change
Well, then you
locations, yeah.
we might have to say, is there a reason to move one or two in one direction or the other? We've already talked about extra office help for the election.
Do we need a vote on that, or?
Well, I think you probably ought to present the people,
Okay,
and then the other issue is, just remind me, do we have a set salary or hourly payment, or is there
We're doing
some
9.
guideline?
We
Or
were doing $9 an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
and, to the board members, if you have anybody in mind, we have
one.
We have one D and
for
one R,
sure
but we
that's
need another
coming.
D and an R. So if you have anybody in mind for office help, let us know, please.
And we probably have them start maybe mid-September,
Yeah,
so they can kind of get used to things and help us
it would be
get
nice
stuff
if,
balanced and get them ready for the first
How
mailing.
many hours?
Well,
depends how busy we get.
Yeah, I mean, it could
I'd
be
say
40
right now,
it could
they're
be
gonna
40
do
hours.
probably 30, 35 maybe.
Yeah,
They don't
but it could
necessarily.
be up to.
But I tell you, once that phone starts ringing, because our goal is, my goal, Mandy and I talked about this yesterday, is that we have the temporary help actually doing the voting and answering the phones. And the 4 staff members are running ballots or doing,
Right,
doing the work that we have to do, so we don't have to answer the phones and
Yeah.
concentrate on our jobs.
Right, so we make sure we get on about.
Certifying the envelopes.
Get them all out.
no, I'm not,
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
All of the envelopes. Double checking,
I didn't have
double
to say
checking.
that.
No, you didn't, believe me.
We feel that enough. We feel that enough ourselves, so.
Yeah. After this is over, we'll tell you what we found out too. But yeah, so if they have somebody, they would be working probably, like she says, mid-September to election day.
Okay.
And it would be nice if they had some experience as poll workers. So if you need a list of Ds and Rs and poll workers, I can get that to you as well.
You know, I'm just thinking that one of the poll workers, I can't remember her name, but works at one of our polls, bet she'd work. I'm trying to think, I want to say Anderson, but I don't think it's right.
Bettina?
Yeah.
Bettina Anderson?
But she works full-time,
She works at the Jobs and Family Services.
or
doesn't she?
well, it's, child support enforcement.
Child support enforcement.
Okay, well, forget about that one.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
first
because
one
she
that
would
came
have
to
been
mind.
good, but.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
but
good.
she works
She's a good
full-time
worker.
anyway, so.
Yeah, she is. Speaking of poll workers and Ds and Rs, I'll also, we also certified the new central committee members for each of the parties, county parties. So I will be sending out those letters to the central committee members, giving them opportunity to appoint somebody to be a poll worker as well.
Recommend.
Recommend.
Yeah.
Recommend, you guys
Recommend.
appoint.
Yeah.
They recommend, yes, you're right. So those letters will be going out probably within the next couple of weeks. And did the Republicans send theirs in to Secretary of State?
Did you?
Central Committee?
To the secretary?
Yeah,
Mm,
I sent you
I
the
don't, sure,
form and I
I
signed
think I
it.
sent it anyway,
Okay,
so.
I know we are having,
I'll check.
the Dems didn't get to swear everybody in at the same time, so we're having another meeting Monday night.
We
So
just
if you weren't on that
appointed
first
some
meeting,
people,
you were, okay, then you and Dennis are fine.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have another meeting Monday night, Zoom meeting, and Robin Bozian is going to swear us in, swear them in, and then I'll submit it to the Secretary of
Okay.
State. There wasn't a deadline on that anyways, I didn't see one from them, so.
Yeah,
But once we have all those members, then I will be sending out the letters asking them for recommendations.
Very good. We already talked about the CARES Act and that agreement.
Are you guys okay if we sign that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, again, could I have a motion to enter into the CARES Act grant agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Save the date. That's now a virtual
summer conference.
Is that something that can be done from your home computer?
I would say you should.
Mhm.
Okay.
You might have to download the, I think like GoToMeetings is what
Did
they
you have a schedule or anything yet? They don't know.
Not
We have
yet.
not received it yet.
Well, we'll be discussing that in just a moment because I noticed that our next meeting is the same day as
Oh,
the
it is,
virtual.
so we may even have to change that.
We'll get to that in just a second.
Kadeen, they have to, as a board member, you have to have so many hours
Yeah, it's 8
of
hours.
training. So I think we said you guys were only 1 hour or so
I think they
away.
only need like 1
Yeah,
hour or a
three,
half
so,
hour or
Of
something.
course, you have 365 days to do
So it's for
that.
your,
Yeah. So,
And they'll have you do a new board member training
mhm.
and that'll give you most of them. So
Yeah.
they'll probably send you some info, the state will probably send something out once you get approved.
No good deed goes unpunished in
Yeah.
this business.
I'll learn from.
It's always more CLE.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, the winter one is the one that we've historically gone in person as an entire group.
Mhm.
That's usually in the second week-ish of January, and it's up in Columbus. And the ladies get hotels for everybody, and we go to these conferences. And again, our history's been for all of us to attend those either as many days or, a day or two, depending on what your own life schedule is about.
Mhm.
So I guess we'll be sort of waiting to see if that's gonna go, because that's an association.
Yeah, our
I mean,
association puts that one on.
Yeah, it's closely tied to the secretary, because he's usually there for 1 or 2 presentations, and then their staff is there.
Speaking of the association, they are taking nominations for, one Dem and one R, for, the award. I forget what the name of the
It's the
award
Pat
is.
Wolf Award.
Peggy was the recipient of it last winter, if you remember,
Yes.
or on the east side. So if you have anybody, and you can nominate within your county or without, from outside of your county, but if anybody is interested, we do have the nomination sheets on those.
I was gonna make a joke for Kadeen and say, the board members share rooms, so Kadeen, I don't know how you go along with that, but I was gonna make that
Nice to flip a coin.
joke. No, we're Republicans and Democrats together, that's what.
And
Use
usually,
your partisan rooms.
That's right.
usually the conference that's by our association, the one in the winter, they do more fun things too.
Yeah.
They'll have stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We have
If you want to
karaoke.
see the
Yeah,
karaoke
it's part of
crew
it.
here.
Yeah.
We're doing karaoke with a live band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, these women can get wild in there.
Yep. And some people are pretty good
Is that in
singers.
minutes?
No, not just on the minutes.
No.
What happens at conferences?
Yeah, it's like Vegas.
Yeah, you meet a lot of the vendors, and in some respects, it's a good opportunity to meet these folks just in a casual setting, because ultimately, they're here always trying to sell you some new product.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can bend their arm at these conferences, so they're a little more pliable and so forth when it comes to expense. The Richardson Hyde Brothers Marty Print Shop, you're looking at those absentee
Well,
envelopes.
yeah, and then Secretary of State
Yeah.
changes the envelopes.
Yeah.
It was these new
We can
redesigns.
use what we currently have. Now, if you'll remember, we had postage paid on some of those return absentee ballots. We cannot use those envelopes. What we're gonna do is we cannot use the paid postage on it. So we're gonna cover up the postage on that with stickers, so we can still use those envelopes. But we're allowed to use up, and right now we have about 12,000
I don't think
envelopes,
that's in.
10,000
Yeah.
envelopes. But when we order envelopes, and they're multicolored now, so it's gonna cost more. But I did receive one from Hyde Brothers. Richardson's are no longer. I mean, they're just,
Yeah, they
they're
don't
not
do it
even,
anymore.
I couldn't even get a number. So, I did
How
also
many
send it,
envelopes will you order?
we have
We have
10
about
right
10
now.
in
But
stock.
how many would you order?
Oh, we haven't ordered yet.
We will order probably at what, 15
Yeah, I mean, we probably want to order,
15 grand.
but we haven't
And
ordered them yet.
when do you order and how quickly do you have to have the order?
Well, we want to have them before we start absentee
Yeah.
voting.
Well,
I mean, it's,
there's another printer in town called Oliver Printing. He's a small,
maybe we'll need
he's
to,
a small one-man project, but
yeah.
that's the only thing that worries me about him, but
Well, it's the same way with Marty's. I didn't take it down to Marty's because I knew he was a one-man operator too. I did send it to, and the Athens County Board has used these people, Minutemen Printing, which is in downtown Athens. But I haven't heard back from them. And again, now, the quotes that I have are null and void since we're going with this. And since they're bicolor, it's gonna be more expensive.
It has to be in color.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like it. I like how they're highlighting, especially, did you forget, and make sure, people's signature. The other thing that's really good that I understand through this directive, we can still call them and get corrected information instead of sending a letter. In the past, we've had to send out the letter to say, your social security number was wrong on here or something like that. So we can still call them in this election anyways. So that's good. And they can give it to us via internet in email as well.
did you
Yeah.
see what's gonna give Morty printing a chance?
Well, I'll take it down to him and see, and where can I find Oliver's printing? Do you know?
I have to look.
Okay.
Yeah, these just came out this.
Yeah, this just came out yesterday.
Do we need what, 3?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's 3 envelopes.
No, 3,
Quotes?
Oh, 3
Quotes.
quotes, yeah.
So you got Richardson.
No, Richardson's
They're out.
There, yeah.
I'll get Hyde Brothers. I'll go with this Minutemen in Athens, and I can go with Oliver and Marty. Now, I would also see what Barrett Brothers, whoever they are now. My problem with Barrett Brothers is what we ran into is that they're in Dayton. And when we needed them, I had to drive down to Gallup Police because that's the closest they could get them to us. So if we
That's the
have,
closest they can get them to you.
Well, they were going to
Deliver.
deliver them to us, but not
until
the
Tuesday
next-
of the week of the election.
Yeah.
Or
It
the
was
week
too
before the
late. I mean,
election.
it would be too late by the
Yeah.
time we got.
So I'm thinking, even if it's in Athens, that's a quick drive.
Yeah, 40
Compared
minutes
to-
there, 40 minutes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Now, Hyde Brothers right here in town, aren't they?
but they send their stuff away. They're out there at the Broughton,
Yeah, they're up at the
Complex.
complex now.
But they send their stuff away.
again, they're not printing in there unless they're doing small jobs there, but I didn't see any printing. It was just an office. So I think they're sending their stuff away
Yeah,
too.
and when we're,
Barrett Brothers sends theirs away.
yeah, well, and when we get billed, they send it.
It doesn't have to be, I don't know. With the Secretary of State, does it have to be Ohio?
No, they don't have to be, the envelopes don't have to be printed in Ohio, but your ballots do.
There's another place in Vienna that does good work.
Okay.
Yeah, the envelopes I don't think have to be, but I know for sure the ballots have to.
Yeah. But like I say, the quote that I had on the old envelopes is,
Which the Hyde Brothers quote for the old envelopes was pretty close to.
yeah, it was
Barrett
close
Brothers.
to theirs. And I said, the board has said, if we can get it done locally, we'd rather. So, but I will definitely send those out and try to get more quotes, but it's gonna be probably, and I'd say, if not double what the quote I got for the other ones, because they were not colored. Because that's what, there's 3 colors on there or 4?
There's
Blue, red, black, and
blue,
yellow.
Yeah.
That might shut, some of them be able to do the work.
When you're, refresh my memory, we talked about scanners for the ballot envelopes, right?
Mhm.
What does it scan?
Well, we put it just scans the ID envelope. Let me get to that one. So it would be this one. So normally it scans, we would put in here, a barcode. We'd have
You're
there,
putting a
the voters,
barcode
yeah,
on
we would
there.
put that on there.
So that's a sticker of some sort,
Yeah,
or
it's a label.
it's a label?
Yeah.
Okay, that answers that.
So and it would have a barcode that the scanner would read.
Right, okay.
Also, we are getting electronic signature.
Yeah, the next, the triad.
Is that the triad
signature
thing?
pads,
Okay,
yeah.
that's next.
So that's we had previously actually ordered these items from Triad. They came out with them that they would plug into our computers out here. So when the voters come in and we register them in, they would sign like you do at a store or something on a little electronic pad. But then the Secretary of State said you can't use those because they were not approved by the Board of Voting Machine Examiners. So Triad went before that board now and got them approved. They were $400, I think, a piece. We were thinking we'd need at least 30.
That eliminates
check-in stations.
the paper that people have to sign when we get, two of their,
Because we print off 2 labels right
Two
now for the
labels,
people.
yeah.
One with their code that they use to bring up their ballot on the machine,
mhm.
and then one that we would put on a piece of paper and they would sign next to it.
But with the
So
electronic
we're gonna do
signature,
away
it
with that.
So
automatically
we
goes
just
into
have the
the
one label.
database
Right.
system that we have.
So that's gonna,
So that's
that will
good.
improve the speed, and it's more like election day signature.
Yes.
Right,
3.
yeah.
So do we need 3 or do we need 4?
I'd go with 4 because if we
Might
get
have to
enough,
have a backup.
it's nice to have a backup.
Right,
Plus,
that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
if we happen to go over there for voting, we could have another check-in point, maybe.
Well, I don't
set up
know if
one.
well, you mean maybe have one in here?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We might be able to set up
another
4.
computer.
Is 4 gonna be
Well, you can
enough?
use my laptop.
Well, that's I'm just asking, yeah, Charlie hit the next question, is 4 enough?
And they're 400 apiece. Maybe we'll,
Okay, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and order at least 5, signature pads from Triad.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes. I think it's wiser because experience teaches us there is nothing that doesn't break
Absolutely.
at the wrong time, right?
and again, this is something we could get out of the CARES grant.
Well, I'm figuring we're not spending county money at this point.
Yeah.
So we're good there. And the other thing that, again, it does for us is potentially if we were to have a larger area available, it allows us to do that. I mean, if we
Right,
suddenly
yeah.
found, hey, we can put another station.
Mhm.
It's far better than trying to call up and maybe a crunch time where everybody's ordering them and they're backlogged.
Right. you can't-
We'd have them here in our hands. Okay, good.
And the EAP plan, you guys had approved one before, but then they had us add in new items, so you have it. So I don't know if you want to read through them again and maybe approve it at the next meeting.
You know,
But it's in
this
here.
is such luscious reading.
Yeah. And this here, it's the calendar. We had to make up a calendar too to go with it. It's already been submitted to the state.
Mhm.
That you have, because we had to submit it by the 6th. So, but you guys will have to vote to approve it.
Okay.
But
And
that's all
again,
one.
we have looked at this before, but there are add-ons.
Yeah, right at the end, there was some
Oh.
things that we had to change.
We also had to have a list of utilities at each of the precinct locations that, did you submit it with that? If not, why?
You know, I'm not sure I did.
Okay, I'm gonna have to submit that.
Yeah.
We had to have a list, emergency contact name for utilities, at each of the polling locations.
All right, depending on who provides
Right.
whatever.
And luckily AEP was at all of our polling locations, so that
Oh.
was easy enough. We did have quite a number of gas companies that were at the polling locations. So we got those, and then water and fire. So that was submitted as well, so, or will be submitted as well.
And then
Oh,
we
I
have
see.
the copy of the.
Last item's the calendar, okay.
And then there's a copy of our number of meals of hours.
Are we coming down?
Yeah, you can see there because what's in black was what was on your report at the last meeting as the current. And so then it's changed now to what's in red. We now have less.
Still got some ways to go, don't we?
Yeah, we're still
Now, Melissa is taking some vacation
at the end of
at the end.
July.
Yeah.
The last week of July.
I'm taking over the week of Labor Day.
When you
So,
say vacation, is it coming off the vacation or
Yeah.
off the comp flex?
Yeah, from the vacation.
um,
And then I need to figure
I
out.
don't know if we-
Well, at the end of September, I'll be taking a week and then I might take another week at least somewhere.
Okay. And then our following, just for big planning, the primary for 21, is that back to May?
yes,
Yeah.
So we have that
yeah, we have some time between
maybe a
Christmas
rest
and, yeah.
period afterwards, after we button up the election.
Yeah, after this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe January, February.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you as the board want to address this. We had gotten notice from the commissioners for county-wide employees. If an employee needs to be quarantined or has to take care of a relative that has COVID, or the employee has COVID, sick time can be used, or sick time can be used for that.
Yeah, I think.
But, and I don't know what your stance is, but if you have to self-quarantine because you have been out of state, you cannot use sick time for that.
So if you went out of state on your own,
I'm going to Hilton Head over Labor Day weekend. I'm asking you as the board, are you going to require me to self-quarantine for 2 weeks when I return?
I guess I'd like to think about it, but
I mean, that's,
I mean, what?
and you don't have to make a decision
I go to
now.
I go to these doctors every other day or someplace, and they take my temperature.
Yeah.
I mean, is out of state include Williamstown?
Well,
I will tell you what the hospital's new policy is with regards to just their employees, so it's private policy. If their employees go to one of the hot zones, one of these states that are deemed hot zones, they must quarantine for 14 days.
Okay.
But that's a private policy,
Mhm.
and it only affects those who go to one of these specific
One of the
places.
hospitals.
So, just for reference, that's one of our local employers is doing.
And
largest employee,
yeah, the largest employee. Exactly.
employer, really.
And I mean, with here, we social distance in here, obviously, there's just the 4 of us, so, but that's what the commissioner's policy was, so I don't know, as a separate board, you guys can decide it.
Yeah,
And potentially then at the end of September, when I take vacation, I might be going to Virginia. So I
Right.
see my in-laws,
So,
which isn't really a hot zone, or where they're at, it's not even one, but.
right.
Who determines the hot zone, the state? I mean, that's.
Or,
good question.
yeah.
Or does it change? I mean,
Well, I mean, it
It does
can change.
change.
Yeah, it could change.
This stuff like pops up out of nowhere and, and then, to me, the other issue I just noticed is it a hot zone or did it happen to be 2 nursing homes?
Mhm.
Right.
That,
Well-
throw these numbers up, because they're just large. Because look at New York City.
Yeah.
I mean, those nursing homes, just,
And I would tell you, concerning poll workers, I had several poll workers called me Monday night saying, my boss told me if I worked at the polls, I had to self-quarantine for 2 weeks.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well,
So that might also be a wrench in the
Yeah,
plan
getting our poll
as far as
workers.
getting poll
Yeah.
workers.
well, then that survey or whatever you were talking about is gonna be very
Yes,
very in.
And I may include that if that's not already a question. If you have to work, will you be required to do a self-quarantine of 14 days?
So we could lose some
Yeah,
poll
there's a
workers.
lot of
Yeah.
people like that.
If they're employed, that's, but of course, a lot of us are old and don't work, but,
But you're also asking them now to project something.
Exactly,
You know.
exactly. And that's what
a
I'm
bit into the
I'm probably
future.
gonna hear. Same way with students for youth at the booth. You know,
Yeah.
are their parents, are their
Or the
teachers gonna be
schools,
comfortable
Yeah,
allowing them working?
it should be bad to lose them.
Yeah, because they've historically been at the poll books,
Yeah,
Yeah.
or at least we like them at the poll books because they're so comfortable there.
yeah,
And that's probably they would be that's the closest
Mhm.
interaction, arguably, or you would get. Because you could sort of have a glove only
Yeah.
handing of a ballot in a box or something.
which I might ask each of the
Contact
central
with
committee
the
members
delivery.
to not just give me 2, if they're comfortable in giving me 4, you know?
Well, again, we may
Alternates.
need more youth at the booth than
Yeah.
past history. And again, once again, it sounds like this is how we sort of think we understand how school goes. And then all of a sudden, school doesn't go that way.
Mhm.
of course, if the kids aren't in the schools,
Then we should be clear.
It's hard for us to then get them, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The teachers aren't gonna be available, you know.
Well, now, see, that's the other thing they're saying, that since schools were closed March 17th, to use a lot of those teachers. Now, we had some interest, I think maybe 2 teachers contacted me and said, yes, they would work. But at that time, it was hard to get teachers even.
Yeah,
So
I know.
that's why we're starting to recruit now. I know in our area, it's concerning. I can't imagine in these big cities that there are 3,000 poll workers.
Columbus and their 5.
Right.
All right. Future discussion, old business, anything you want to bring to our attention?
They did, it doesn't affect us, but part of that one directive says for nursing homes, if you had a polling location that was a nursing home, get it out of the nursing
Yes,
home.
thank you
Which
for
would be
never
like
picking a nursing home or a
temporarily,
senior
yeah.
facility.
So luckily we don't
I
have
remember
to.
there is a nursing home that, I don't know if it's out there in Reno, they have a nice big building,
Mhm.
facility that we could use. We've never used it, but, you
Yeah,
know.
but we
there-
can't now.
I can't remember the name of the place now, but,
Yeah,
Or it's.
it's Reno, you get on Browns
Yeah.
Road.
Browns Road, it
Yeah.
used to be,
I think
it
it's
said like 5 different
Yeah,
names.
yeah, well, they did have a nice facility.
yeah, it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
real facility.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
my
had
group,
Christmas caroling there.
We've
It's
performed
very
there a number of times with my group.
But,
It's a nice place.
But it does say too, in that directive for, we vote people at the nursing homes. And so
Well, I
we
was
have to
gonna
cut
say
that
Something we're gonna have
ahead
to
of
consider
time.
too,
Yeah.
of the people going to the nursing homes to vote people.
Well, it kind of gives us, kind of lays it out for us some in there.
Oh, does
And
it?
yeah, and so if they won't let our people in, then we could train a DNR worker at the nursing homes to be a temporary poll worker.
And that's the same-
they vote the residents for us.
that's the same way when I contacted the hospital. Of course, at that time, they weren't allowing any visitors.
Yeah.
So
What if
what,
we have
I
somebody
need
at
to
the
work with
hospital?
Jennifer Offenberger
Yeah.
again and say, okay, can you identify 1D and 1R in your operation that is willing to vote people that are in the hospital?
Yeah, if they
Yeah.
won't let our people.
That get there under
Yeah,
the appropriate circumstances
Yes.
so we can vote.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're on top of that then.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we need to know about August 12th with the virtual versus this would be our board meeting day?
No, they haven't gave us their schedule yet, but I would assume they might have things all day. They might have classes.
Well, I'm kind of thinking
Yeah,
they
so we
probably
might wanna
start at
change.
9-ish. at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
can
So,
we possibly meet the week before, August 5th?
do you have calendars, folks?
mean, I think it'd be okay for any of our purposes.
Mhm.
August 5th,
August 5th at 8:30,
I'm good.
I'm good.
It's okay with me.
Nadine, you're
okay?
This is August,
Yeah,
August
August
5th.
5.
It's a Wednesday.
yeah, I'm open.
Okay.
All right,
good.
so 8:30.
And if any of you have concerns about not being able to get on virtually at home or your office, you can come in here.
Yeah,
If you
watch
need to
with
do that.
us.
Yeah, and watch with us.
Well, it depends on how we have to do it.
Like I say, we need to see the agenda to see, because you three only need less than an hour.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to listen to the whole thing, great, but if not,
Well, I can, you can listen, I can
And still
listen in, well, I'm still working on my computer,
yeah.
a lot of times, but.
Yeah. Now, I have taken the new directors and deputy directors training, because they've done that virtually, and that was no problem at all. I could do that, so.
Have you heard what kind of training you have to do? Yeah, I know that they changed that,
But I think
I think it's gonna be
Mandy
similar
was
to what
mentioning-
you're.
I bet it's probably the
and
same.
I'll bet it'll be
Yeah.
virtual.
although, did John meet with someone?
No, they had,
Well, they had that
Yeah, that
mentoring
mentor
program,
program.
and my understanding in reading that new, and going through the new director's training, is that I was supposed to have a mentor as well, and never received one. Of course, this entire year has been so different than any other year, as far as our office is concerned. But I'll find out for you, Kadeen, because like I said, I was supposed to have a mentor as well, so.
yeah. And again, it could just be a telephone call, I guess.
Yeah, it might be now.
Mhm.
And we'll happily mentor you.
Baptism by fire.
Yeah, you're getting the short end of the stick on the one step. There's future run-of-the-mill presidential.
Presidential's bad enough.
Yeah,
anyway.
presidential, we'll throw in a virus.
Yeah.
I think you guys need to make an amendment that nobody can come on during the presidential.
Nobody can retire.
Nobody can
or-
retire, nobody can come on new.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we sort of experienced about as bad a situation as you could get during the primary. So I think in that sense, there's sort of a comfort level of, it's gonna be difficult to, I suppose if the river overflows or something, that would be the other big headache.
Murder hornets.
Yeah,
Mad hornets, yeah,
yeah,
fires.
and, so, other than that, hopefully we'll, again, it sounds like we've had a lot of planning from our staff.
Yeah, they've been.
I really appreciate that you've been thinking ahead and getting us organized and ready to go. And so with that,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Does Kadeen need to sign anything from our perspective
Um,
while she's here and save her a trip?
No, I don't think so,
Oh, cool.
but I do have bills for you to sign.
Oh,